Hello everyone, welcome to another First Glance. I just took delivery of this today, the Call of Cthulhu, Cthulhu by Gaslight Keeper's Guide by Chaosium, still in the shrink wrap. Let's go ahead and take a look here. This retails for $49.99. If you purchase it from Chaosium, then you do get the PDF for free. Let's see if I can get this off without damaging the book. All right. Get the scissors. This comes shipped very nicely from Chaosium. It's double boxed and it's in there very securely. All right, let's take a look. I'm going to have a little bit of glare on these glossy pages, but I'll try to keep it looking nice. Really fantastic artwork. Like that's really cool. Very evocative of British Bobby in the Victorian era. Let's see how many pages we are looking at here. 261 pages. We'll flip through here. There's a content warning. The time period is rife with sexism, racism, things like that, and so I think they're going to talk about that mental health, colonialism, things that were just a part of the time. Let's look at the chapters. You've got the Keeper's Miscellany, Occult Secrets in the Golden Dawn. That would be an organization, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. I wonder if this has Aleister Crowley stats in here. Talks about running Gaslight games, notable Victorians, Victorian horrors, and then 2 adventures, the 4B Masterwork and Oranges and Lemons, as well as appendices. Let's take a look here. Forward by Mike Mason. I do like the text is easy to read. It's on a very light colored page. Sometimes with the older Keeper's Guide for the classic Call of Cthulhu, it's on kind of a more of a yellow page, and it can be a little bit difficult to read. I don't have young eyes, and so it's definitely appreciated to make this a little easier for me. So it mentions that it focuses on the late Victorian period, 1880 to 1899. You've got a good 20 years. A lot of stuff happens in that time. This is the era of Jack the Ripper and Sherlock Holmes, things like Sweeney Todd. Fantastic time for this. Lots of media to give you ideas on what to run and how to run it. A lot of Cthulhu by Gaslight is going to be based on social status and your position in society. In fact, this is talking about like the workhouse, which was, a horrific place for people to end up going. Just absolutely ghastly conditions. Let's see there. We've got a nice little razor, probably an homage to Sweeney Todd. We've got the really cool looking home floor plan. Here's a country house. This would be maybe like your Downton Abbey in a London townhouse, middle class villa, terraced housing, the workhouse. So you've got all these different classes here. Crime and punishment. A lot of these things are just flavor, flogging and birching that might be punishments that you mete out. Here's some famous crimes. Again, just flavor here. None of this is specific, as far as rules go, just to give you a good idea of the environment. Asylums. So quite a good list of asylums here. Different therapies. Then we've got organizations. There's even some pulp consideration here. Looks like they've given plot connections to all these organizations. And then we get to the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, which this is going to be, covers various occult topics such as seances, the inner workings of the Hermetic Order, for those that want to use that organization in their games, as well as an introduction to the practice and perils of astral travel, as well as mythos tomes. Running seances, rules for a seance, that's 100% something I'm going to do. I've run seances in some of my 1920s era games, but this is early 1800s to this point is when spiritualism really took off, and seances were definitely in favor, especially in the upper elements of society. And then it talks about joining the order, which is just fantastic. I don't know that I will use the astral plane. That doesn't appeal to me as much as more mundane sorts of adventures. But it's there if you want to use it. Just because it's not for me doesn't mean it's not for you. Here's some optional skills if you're in the Order of the Golden Dawn. The Hermetic Ritual base skill, and different organizations there. Divination-based skill, astral projection-based skill, astral combat if you're fighting on the astral plane. Again, I'm most likely not going to use that, but it's there if you like it. Some specific astral monsters, astral or Hermetic Order spells, which are all based on the astral plane. The nice thing with these Gaslight books, you do not need the Call of Cthulhu books in order to run them. They're all inclusive. So here it talks about how to read a mythos tome, what the initial reading, the full study, the mythos rating, all the things that you might be familiar with from the 6th edition of Call of Cthulhu or earlier editions. It's all here so that you don't need all of these books. If you just want to do Gaslight, you just need this book if you're running it, and the Investigator's book if you're playing it. And really, you don't even need that. One person probably would need it, most likely the keeper. As a keeper, I usually get stuck with the responsibility of owning all the books, but as a collector, I don't mind at all. Got the Book of Eibon. This probably has Unaspreklichen Kulten. Yeah, Nameless Cults right there. And of course the Necronomicon, the King in Yellow. And now running Gaslight games. First thing they talk about is content, that there is problematic content. This is true in 1920s. I think one of my favorite handlings of this was the Harlem book. I think it was fantastic. But they are definitely letting people know that there's basically three ways you can go about it. One is your game is about challenging role play, and so maybe you keep in some of those problematic areas. Two, our games are about having fun. We don't need to deal with difficult social conundrums and mores of the time. And then third, we're here for tentacles and the cosmic horror. Give me something scary, beer and pretzels kind of thing. So anyway, they don't need to tell you this, but you have those options as far as how you want to run it. Now here's the class structure. You've got your upper class, middle, working class, and the criminal class. Most Gaslight games have focused kind of on the upper and upper middle class. I think a working class, like chimney sweeps, cobblers kind of thing, or criminal class, that would be an amazing niche for games, and that's likely where I will probably put a lot of the onus on the games that I run in Gaslight. It's not to say I won't run any upper or middle class. I will, but I want to experiment with that. One of my favorite experiences with Call of Cthulhu was running a game for a bunch of hobos, a bunch of vagabonds on a train, and then they see something, and what a great adventure that was. One thing to really consider is this is the Gaslight era, so there are gas leaks. And then discusses the London fog, which can be quite pervasive, to determine when the fog happens. And it talks about the difference between smog, which is smoke and fog, versus just like the marine layer fog that comes in. There's some optional rules for reputation. I think everyone starts with no reputation, and then this, goes plus or minus depending on your deeds. How to get a bad reputation, how to reclaim a good reputation. And again, it is optional. And then, we've got chases in the 6th edition. Now we've got carriage chases, which I believe it's basically the same mechanics. You go through the single steps in here. To confess something, I have never run a chase in Call of Cthulhu using the chase rules. So I can't really speak to this because I've never done it. Again, you don't have to use all the rules in your game. If I do chases, I do them narratively. I don't use the chase mechanics. You can pick and choose what you want to play and how you want to play it. As long as everyone's having fun and can agree that this is what we're doing, you know, do your game. It's your table. They've got the same, kind of chase locations that they have in 6th edition. There's special actions, heroics, collisions, things like that. All of this could be kind of a mini game in and of itself. And at some point, I'm going to try it. Maybe I try it with a carriage versus vehicles, but I think I owe it to myself to try the chase rules. If you do the chase rules in Call of Cthulhu, let me know in the comments. Is this something that is worth the time, or I know a lot of people just don't. Let me know what you think, and should I stop my my habit of not using them? Am I seriously missing out on something here? And then it's kind of odd that we go from chases right into like games and campaigns, but it's not a separate chapter for chases, so that's why. It's part of the whole running Cthulhu Gaslights, whereas in the 6th edition book, it's its own chapter. And here it's just page 85 to 90, 5 pages, covers chases. The difference between like a one-shot and a campaign, a lot of this is just, it's you probably know this unless you're new, but you've got your episodic campaigns, character-based, plotted campaigns. I think Call of Cthulhu is fantastic for one-shots. I have run campaigns, Masks of Nyarlathotep. I just recently finished Order of the Stone for the 2nd time. I love campaigns. It's a great chance to slow down the action, but Call of Cthulhu is a really strong one-shot game, and I imagine that's how most of us got our introduction to it, was through one-shots. I'm glad that they include the American West. That is America's mythology. Every country, or for the most part, has a mythology. Whether it's Wotan or Odin, Beowulf, for the English, or King Arthur. For the America, it's the American West and cowboys, and we think about gunfights and things like that. There were almost never gunfights in the American West. Very, very few. That's a myth, but it's been romanticized to the point that we want to believe that it happened all the time, and it didn't. But it's kind of interesting as the American mythology. That is something that people still look back on with a romantic eye of like how great things were back then, and manifest destiny and all that. And really, like, life was hard, and disease was most likely to get you if a wild animal didn't. You've got adventure seeds here. Different ways to kind of get your characters into something. They even cover the Dreamlands, using the Martians, going with H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. They cover everything in here. It's a cool looking map to look at. I guess it's useful. It's pretty cluttered, but it is London, which it wasn't exactly laid out with any sort of organization. They just kind of kept building upon what they had and just going around and around. Notable Victorians. Here we've got some NPCs. And Prince Albert, Queen Victoria. We've got Florence Nightingale. Got quite a few people here. Anna Olga Brown Yates. Buffalo Bill is in here. There's a nice picture of Buffalo Bill. Annie Oakley. Over here. I'm not. Oh, here we are. Oh, Cole. I'm going to see if we've got Aleister Crowley in here. Right there. There we go. There's the man. Right there. If you want to read an interesting life, read a little bit about Aleister Crowley, and there's a lot of mythology about him as well. But really, like, amazing. He lived in a time and did things in a time that are just almost unbelievable. His secret war stuff and things like that, just incredible. Let's get through here. And then we got fictional people: Captain Nemo, Dr. Moreau, Dorian Gray, Madame Sarah. So whatever you want in here. Here are the different creatures that you might find horrors, they call it. So different locations, and then different cults, and here are some stats. It's got Hyperboreans. That's crazy. Nice. Got a little everything in here. Got beast people, Martians is in here. Oh, there we are, the tripod. So again, you don't have to use Martian tripods in your game, but if you want to, it is there. It is very inclusive of everything at the time. Count Dracula, Dr. Henry Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, which a lot of Americans call him Jekyll, but if you do the Scottish pronunciation, I can't even pronounce that pronunciation, it's Jekyll, so it's Jekyll and Hyde. Spring Hill Jack. And then we get to the first adventures. Now, I don't want to spoil the adventures. There are 2 of them. Let's see if I can find the second one right there. So the first one goes from page, this is 173, to page 211. So you've got a pretty good chunk of adventure here. And again, I'm just going to flip through really quickly. I don't want to spoil anything in there for people that might run it. And then the second one, Oranges and Lemons, goes through to the appendices. So that is page 213 to 243. So you got 30 pages in Oranges and Lemons. So cool stuff. And then your appendices, movies, books, things like that you can get into. Some generic Victorians, who doesn't need stats for a street ruffian or a street urchin. And then your character sheet, which this is essentially identical to a classic Call of Cthulhu sheet. They do have room for social status up at the top, and let's see, any specific skills: alienism, reassure. That's kind of a cool skill that I know they have added in, as the reassure skill. That is all I'm seeing in here. The reassurer can be very useful to help calm someone that's dealing with insanity, if I'm not mistaken. Trying to remember kind of off the cuff here. And I think it takes over for the I can't think of the skill that came after psychology. It'll come to me when I'm done with the video. But there was a skill that could be used to try and assist someone. Wow, cannot remember that. Anyway, you got your Pulp Cthulhu page, and then your index, which is several pages of index. And then there is mentions that you can download some additional things from Chaosium if you didn't purchase this from Chaosium. But if you do, you get the PDF of this book for free. Very cool. This is the Cthulhu by Gaslight Keeper's Guide. This looks fantastic. I'm going to get some games ready and get them run, and I hope that that this will be a successful product. I would like to see this really take off. I think this is a great era for the Call of Cthulhu game, and hopefully some of you will be persuaded to pick this up, because this does look like a lot of fun. Thanks a lot, everyone.